So till now, what we have been reading is there are different ways of sacrifices. Last week we read there are so many ways of sacrifices. Demigod worship, they will sacrifice. Brahmacharis sacrifice their senses. The grastas control, restrain their senses, and so on and so forth. There are many paths which Krishna was mentioning about sacrifice. Okay, so now we come to the most important verse in this chapter, which is this one, 434. So this verse talks us about how to prepare our heart for the Guru to sow the seed of transcendental knowledge and then help it fructify. And so there are 4 qualities that a disciple must have, which are being talked about in this particular verse. Okay, so various yagyas have been described earlier, but then what Krishna is highlighting is that the easiest way is to just approach a guru with some qualities within us. When we approach a guru, the transcendental knowledge gets transferred to us, because a guru who's a pure devotee, his or her heart is melting out of compassion, and he or she is very eager to pass on that knowledge to others out of sheer compassion, no ulterior motives, no desires of his or her own, but just with a desire to serve, to help everybody. If the guru passes it to the disciple. So Krishna is now going to bring to the essence that, yes, I've told you so many different yagyas, but then there is a very simple, straightforward path, and you can adopt that path. So let's look at this word. Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattva darshina. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. Okay. So 4 things are we talking about. So one is tadvidhi. Okay. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. There are 4 things that are being mentioned by Krishna. Okay. So tadvidhi pranipat pariprashna sevaya. Okay. So tadvidhi means, so tadvidhi means following a particular vidhi, right? This right approach. So in a broader sense means dedicated to the absolute truth, right? So we should be truthful in our approach. It should not be that I should approach a guru with some ulterior motives, or I want to look good out in the society saying that, oh, I have a fancy guru. See, I have who's American, or who looks smart, or who says nice. No, the goal should be that it should be tadvidhi. It should be appropriate. It should be dedicated to the truth. Right? So this sense of truthfulness, this avowed truthfulness, is the quality of a disciple. To be honest with one's motive and to be aware of one's setbacks. Okay? That these are the faults that are in my heart. And then we reveal those to the guru and seek guidance. That how can I make further advancement? That is truthfulness. Being brutally honest with one's motive and also with one's action. Sometimes being brutally honest hurts, but it is very good for our ego to get purified. When we are brutally honest, especially in front of our guru, when I go and accept in front of my guru that this is the challenges I'm facing out of, you can say, my entanglement in this world, my illusions that I have created for myself, and that my identification with this body has resulted in. All that has, so when I accept those by being brutally honest, then I become favorable for getting knowledge. Okay? Then I become a candidate for getting knowledge from my spiritual master. There is this famous story of Satyakam, yes, Satyakam. So Satyakam was the son of a woman named Jabal. and Jabal she was a prostitute. Okay, but Satyakam had a very strong desire to study, and so he left his home in search of a guru, and he went to the ashram of Gautam Rishi, and he asked Gautam Rishi that he requested him, please make me a disciple. So the sage Gautam, he asked him one question, that before I make you my disciple, I need to know about your family. Who's your father? You have to tell me that. Now this puzzled Satyakam because he had no idea about anybody in his family except his mother. Okay. So he, in a simple mindset, he went back to his mother. He asked his mother, "Mother, who's my father?" And his mother told him that, I don't know who's your father. I don't know your father's name. I've been with so many men and I don't know. So Satyakam, being very brutally honest, being truthful, he goes to Gautam Rishi and he tells him that I asked my mother, this is what she told me. Right? So by being truthful, Gautam Rishi was very happy with him. And Gautam Rishi imparted knowledge to him. So truthfulness, even though it sometimes hurt, but it's also very purificatory for our progress in bhakti. If we keep hiding our challenges, if we keep hiding our shortcomings, especially in front of our guru, not in front of everyone, we don't have to become so vulnerable that we keep presenting our shortcomings in front of everybody. That's not the goal. But when we keep them from our guru even, then growth never comes from within us. So I have to open up so that spiritual master can help me. Okay. So that means that. So then comes pranipat. So pranipat means, literally it means fall flat in front of guru. So pranipat, like Arjun does in 2.7, in the second chapter, that I cannot take it anymore. I'm surrendering. I'm your disciple now. Second chapter. He was doing pranipat. Then comes pariprashnena. So pariprashnena means, when you break down that compound word pariprashnena, it's paripurna prashna. So proper inquiries from Guru about transcendental matters. No absurd inquiries, no blind following. That's an important aspect of pariprashnena. Right? We're not going to ask absurd things. For example, when Prabhupada was around, people would ask him all sorts of absurd questions. Right? Somebody asked him, are there any mosquitoes in the spiritual? Okay. And Prabhupada just told him, even if they are, they're chanting Hare Krishna. So you also chant. So you do that here at least. Right? Somebody asked Prabhupada that, I think it was in Japan, that, have you met Indra? And Prabhupada was really, visibly annoyed by that question. He said, how does it matter to you if I've met Indra? Right? Does it change anything for you? Let's presume I've met Indra. Yes, then how does it change anything? So questions which have nothing to do with our spiritual growth, they are kind of absurd questions which we should not ask with a spiritual master. We always have to see that how is this question going to benefit me now. So that's pariprashnena. And pariprashnena means that also sometimes what happens that when we listen to a class, generally in a perfect environment, what happens is, if you're listening to a class with full attention and good motives, then we end up with more questions than answers from that class. Generally, that's what happens, because you're trying to dig deep and you get more and more questions as you're listening. So, but sometimes you don't have any questions, and this was something that was asked to one of the gurus in ISKCON. This is something within ISKCON. So that the guru gave a very beautiful answer. He said that, fine, you don't get any questions, that's okay. But are you eager to hear the answers to the questions that others have put forth? other people who were in the assembly listening to the class as we were listening. And the person said, yes, I'm very eager to. And the Guru said, yes, that's fine. That also comes under the umbrella of pariprashnena, eagerness to hear. Right? If I don't have any questions, I should be eager to hear questions that have been asked by others. But once again, no absurd questions. And I said no absurd questions and no blind following. Okay. There was a story I heard many years ago about once there was a guru and there was a servant. They were traveling together. They both were on horses. Okay. So while they were traveling, something fell off the horse, something they were carrying, and the disciple did not pick it up. The disciple did not pick it up, and that after like an hour or a couple of hours, the Guru asked for that thing, and the disciple said, "Oh, it fell down a couple of hours ago." And the Guru said, "Why didn't you pick it up?" And the disciple said, "Well, you never told me to pick it up." Okay, that really frustrated the Guru, but then Guru said, "Okay, anything that falls off the horse, you pick it up while we are traveling." And the disciple said, "Okay, we'll do that." So later on, the horse, when the horse pooped, and then the disciple, he picked up the horse down and he collected it. And now when they both were traveling, the Guru smelled, what is this stink coming from? And he saw that his disciple was carrying the horse's dung. So now the Guru was very angry. He said, "Why are you carrying this?" He said, "You told me whatever falls off the horse, I have to pick it up." Okay, this time the Guru was really angry. He said, "Okay, I'm going to write down a list of things for you that you should pick up if they fall down." And he writes a very extensive list. Okay, and that's fine. Okay, the disciple said, "Okay, that's fine." Then while they were traveling, after a few miles or so, accidentally the Guru fell off the horse. But the disciple didn't stop. He just kept on going. And the Guru became very angry. He said, "Why are you not picking me up?" And the disciple looks at the list and he says, "But you haven't put Guru on that list." So those are blind following. And how you can be very blind even when you're following your Guru's instructions. So we don't surrender our intelligence. We surrender with intelligence. I've mentioned this earlier in the past. So surrender doesn't mean that I also give up my intelligence. No, I have to use the intelligence to my best of my capacity with all the guidance coming from Krishna and all the guidance coming from Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. Okay? And not being in a state of being a doer, that I'm the one who's doing it. No, then things don't work out. But when I just become a channel, I become a conduit to transfer that knowledge, what has been come to me, then it works miracles. Otherwise, it does not. So no blind following with intelligence. Okay, so that's pariprashnena. So pariprashnena, as mentioned, is also eagerness to hear and also asking questions. Okay, so that's pariprashnena. So tadvidhi, pranipat, we talk pariprashnena, and then last but not the least comes sevaya. Okay, so we hear knowledge, that is theoretical, that is gyan, right? That is gyan. And when we apply it, it becomes vigyan, right? Jnanam chaya vigyanam idam vakshami shisapa yaj gyatva neha viyanyaj gyatavam avashishyate. That comes in the beginning of the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. That jnana is theoretical knowledge that we are getting, right? Reading Bhagavad Gita every day, reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita. We are reading these literature every day. But then when we apply that knowledge, it becomes Vijnana. So service with the proper service attitude. Right? That's the purpose of Sevaya, doing Seva, but with that understanding and then applying that understanding, the knowledge that we are gaining. Right? For example, this verse, when we read this verse tells us 4 things that we have to do when we are approaching the spiritual master. So next time when we approach our spiritual master, or even when we are approaching Prabhupada is our spiritual master if we don't have spiritual master. But we approach with these 4 qualities. So now we are applying the knowledge that we're getting from So in the process of bhakti, what happens is we will always be tested. Okay. Initially, when we are practicing, when we are on the path, when we are gaining this knowledge, jnana, we are applying it, we'll always be tested for our consistency. That's all we have to show in us, sadhaka bhaktas, practicing devotees, as I am a neophyte practicing devotee. I'm being tested for my consistency. Do I do the things that I have vowed to in front of my spiritual master, in front of the deities, in front of Prabhupada? For regulated principles, 16 rounds, chanting, reading scripture, whatever it may be that we have vowed. So I am tested for my consistency in the beginning. Okay, so that's where the seva part comes in. So when I'm serving with this sense of consistency, with this sincerity, that's what I'm being tested for. But later on in my life, I don't know when it comes, whether it comes in this lifetime or not, when it comes to another lifetime, I'll be tested for my selflessness in my service. Okay? So when Prabhupada was in India, his guru gave him instruction in 1922. That's when Prabhupada first met his Guru Maharaj in Abhīṣṭa-dohaṁ. If you all go to Kolkata anytime, you should see that place. ISKCON has renovated it. Beautiful place to see. Abhīṣṭa-dohaṁ Junction. Where Prabhupada met his Guru Maharaj for the first time. That was 1922. And in which year did Prabhupada come to United States? 1966. So that makes it 44 years. For 44 years, Krishna was testing Prabhupada for his consistency. Prabhupada was genuinely trying to execute his spiritual master's order. What did Prabhupada get in return for those first 44 years? Failure in all the efforts he could think of. Right? Prabhupada initially thought that he's got a business, he's going to make a lot of money out of that business, and he invests that in bhakti. His business failed. Okay. Prabhupada started the League of Devotees in Jhansi. That failed. Okay. Prabhupada had just one disciple when he left India for United States. Only one disciple that he made in Jhansi when he started the League of Devotees. Okay. So that was his first disciple. And but there was no success at all for Prabhupada. And Prabhupada realized that Krishna didn't want him to do what his Guru Maharaj has told him in India. So for 44 years, he was tested for his consistency. In the next 12 years that Prabhupada lived, he was tested for his selflessness. Right? And how did Prabhupada show this selflessness? In numerous ways. His disciples in the beginning, some of his disciples, they were very, sincere, genuinely trying to praise Prabhupada. They even equated Prabhupada to Krishna, and Prabhupada didn't appreciate that. He said, I am a servant of Krishna. You should never say that you are Krishna. And Prabhupada even barred them from ISKCON for a year or so, or something like that. It is given in the Amrita. Then many of the disciples didn't want him to name it as ISKCON, not International Society for Krishna Consciousness. They told him to put it as God Consciousness. And they said that, if you put it as God Consciousness, then people will be more acceptable. Prabhupada said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to change something just because I want to attract devotees or people to me. I'm not going to do it. That's Krishna's job. He has to attract people to himself. I can just be a servant. So Prabhupada named it ISKCON. So Prabhupada was tested for his selflessness. And what did Krishna give in return? And I don't have to go in that in those details. Okay. So that's what Krishna gave Prabhupada. So tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. 4 very important things. And when we do these 4 things, then the channel opens up for us for transcendental knowledge. Okay? That's the whole concept, right? So Talvidhi in the proper way. Pranipatena, humbleness, right? Pariprasnena, being inquisitive in the right mode. No blind faith, no absurd question. And then Sevaya, service-minded. So if you understand, Pranipatena, as I was saying, falling flat on the ground is the basic meaning, but then humbleness is the way we express it. But then humbleness alone is not enough. Right? So it's a good start. It's a necessity, but it's not enough in itself to get us that knowledge, right? So we have to develop a capacity for spiritual perception. By that perception, we start seeing for ourselves what the Guru is seeing. So by the inquisitiveness, and we can develop our capacity for spiritual perception. And then by Sevaya, we understand that that's our ultimate goal in life, loving service to Krishna. Right? So we progress towards the realization by serving Krishna as per the Guru's instructions. So it's not a matter about our intelligence, about our mind. Okay? Something to keep in mind, that it's not about our mind. It's all about our heart. How does our heart change? Right? When my heart starts to melt out of all the service that I do, all the austerities that I'm putting forth, the penances, the sincerity, the consistency, day after day, even though I'm not getting anything out of it yet, that opens up my heart for Krishna to come in and work on it. Krishna says, "Tesham sattva yuktana bhajata priti purvakam yadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te." That when you approach me with love, then I clean up your heart from within. Right? Tesham aham anukampartha aham ajnana jamtama nashyami atma bodhastav jnana deepena bhasvata. That's the 10th chapter, 11th verse. Jnana deepena bhasvata. I give you knowledge which destroys all your illusion. Right? So when I connect with the spiritual master, when I connect with my Guru, and I commit to the process, then this transformation happens in my heart, according to this verse when I approached it. Right? And the Guru being a transparent medium, that his devotion gets transferred to me if I am in the right mindset. Right? The Guru doesn't come between me and Krishna. As a matter of fact, Guru removes what's in between me and Krishna, my false ego, the wall that I have created by myself. Right? So when we do this pranipatena pariprasnena sevaya, then we rise above our weaknesses, and then we are able to approach Krishna. So this is a very important verse. I wanted to spend some time on it. What follows beyond this is primarily the next 3 verses are more like a reward for transcendental knowledge. What do you get out of it? 35, 36, 37, 38. 39 and 40 is the eligibility for getting this, and then the last 2 are call of action, as Krishna always does, summarizing the chapter, asking Arjun to stand up and fight. Okay. So, but before I move further, I just want to know that if you have any thoughts, any comments on this verse, it's a very important verse of Bhagavad Gita. Okay, all clear?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhu, you had mentioned that don't surrender your intelligence, only surrender, and I didn't get that part. If you don't mind repeating it.
What I was saying is, we don't surrender our intelligence. It's not like I shut down my mind when I'm approaching a guru or when I'm doing my service. I surrender with intelligence. And what I meant by with intelligence was, one, when I'm approaching a guru, I use my intelligence. Okay, is this question relevant for my bhakti? Is it going to help me grow in bhakti? Right? I'm not going to just ask a random absurd question to him and waste his time and there'll be no So I use my intelligence to ask the right questions, invest my time and efforts in the right kind of sevaya, and constantly using my intelligence wherever possible to surrender to my spiritual master. So the verse that the phrase that I used was, don't surrender your intelligence, surrender with intelligence. That's what I said, Prabhu. That's what you're referring to, Prabhu?
Thank you, Prabhu. Yes, I just needed that second part. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Yes, surrendering with intelligence. So we never give up our intelligence. Just like we know that we are part and parcels of Krishna. In the 15th chapter, we'll read, Mamai Vamsho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana Mana Shashtani Indriyani Prakriti Sthani Karshi. That Mamai Vamsho Jiva Loke, that all the jivas are my part and parcel, Krishna says. Sanatana, for eternal. So I am Krishna's, but then I am a separate living entity also. I never go and merge with Krishna. This concept of merging is it's abhorred by devotees. They just hate it. I don't want to merge with Krishna. I want to serve him. So how do I do that? It's by using my intelligence, by constantly questioning, okay, is this right? Is this to be done? Is this what Prabhupada is teaching me? So that the intelligence always has to be there. We never give that up anytime. Neither now, neither when we'll probably grow in bhakti. At any stage, we don't give up our intelligence. Yeah, that's what I meant. Okay. Any more thoughts, anyone? No? Okay. We can move on to the, let's see if Prabhupada has anything. Okay, yes. Inquiries and submission constitute the proper combination for spiritual understanding. Unless there is submission and service, inquiries from the learned spiritual master will not be effective. Yes. So unless there is submission and service, a very important point Prabhupada bring out. Yes, we should be submissive, but we also have to be in a service mode. It's not like I can just sit in a room and listen to my spiritual master 24/7 and I'll become a self-realized soul. No, I'll not move much. Yes, hearing is very good, but it has to be complemented with service. The service part always has to be there. And just reading this morning, I was reading a verse somewhere somebody sent me. Let me see if I can find it. I can show you that quickly. Oh, it's 9:4:26. Let me open up my. It's a very short but crisp verse where Prabhupada is highlighting this concept of service. Oh, you might not be able to see it. Let me share. 1 second. So this is anybody who's keeping scores at home. 9th chapter, 9th canto, 4th chapter, verse number 26. I'm just going to read that. So the king of this planet, Maharaj Ambarish, thus performed devotional service to the Lord, and in this endeavor practiced severe austerity, always satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead by his constitutional activities. He gradually gave up all material desires. Severe austerities in the practice of devotional service are of many varieties. For example, in worshipping the deity in the temple, there are certainly laborious activities. Shri Vigraharadhana Nityanana Shringaratana Mandir Marjanada. One must decorate the deity, cleanse the temple, bring water from the Ganges and Yamuna, continue the routine work, performing arti many times, prepare first-class food for the deity, prepare dresses, and so on. In this way, one must constantly be engaged in various activities, and the hard labor involved is certainly an austerity. Similarly, the hard labor involved in preaching, preparing literature, preaching to atheistic men, distributing literature door to door, is of course an austerity. Tapo yuktena, tapo divyam putraka. Such austerity is necessary. Yena sattvam shuddhayet. By such austerity in devotional service, one is purified of material existence. Kaman shanir jahu. Indeed, such austerity leads one to constitutional position of devotional service. In this way, one can give up material desires, and as soon as one is freed from material desires, He's free from repetition of birth and death, old age and disease. So I just wanted to put this verse as an evidence where Prabhupada is saying that when we do those austerities, when we do that sevaya part, that comes in. And it's going to be hard. That seva part is going to be hard. You know, anybody who's engaged in service knows that, either in the temple or out of the temple. It's not easy. We are trying to just go against the grain when we are doing service. So we're doing all these austerities. But what does it do is, such austerity leads one to the constitutional position of devotional service. And then we're able to give up our material desires. So what we were reading in the purport, submission and service both are needed. Right? Otherwise, it's not very effective. And we just read how Prabhupada has very strongly said, service is an austerity, but the purpose of all the service is for my purification. That's the whole purpose. There's no other purpose. For an advanced devotee, it can be more of, serving and compassion. Because I don't have compassion in my heart, for me it's just an austerity, and I'm trying to purify myself by that. In this verse, both blind following and absurd inquiries are condemned. Okay, moving on to the next verse. Having obtained real knowledge from a self-realized soul, you will never fall again into such illusion. For by this knowledge, you will see that all living beings are but part of the Supreme, or in other words, that they are mine. So now these, as I mentioned, 35, 36, 37, 38 is the reward of this transcendental, of gaining this transcendental knowledge. So what happens, right? When we come to know, when we approach a spiritual master, and when when we gain knowledge with the four qualities that have been mentioned in the earlier verse, that liberates us, right? So what is the first part that Krishna is saying? You'll never, okay, yes, liberation, that we will not fall into illusion. We'll come out of that illusion. So that's liberation is there. Okay, that's the first aspect. That Krishna is mentioning to Arjun here, when Krishna says, right, he's saying mine, that they all are mine, right? Atmani athomai, trikshasi atmano athomai, right? So what he's saying, they are mine. So what Krishna is impressing upon Arjun here is that, Arjun, you are not the only one who is worried about Drona and Bhishma, etc. Don't just get in that illusion. I am also worried about them, right? So I'm equally worried about them. And Krishna is establishing that Krishna is giving that relationship that those people have with him. Okay. So in one sense, Krishna is mentioning to Arjun, don't be worried that these people are going to die, and as if you are the only one who's taking care of them. I'm also taking care of them. I'm also worried about them. I'm Suhrida Sarva Bhutana. Krishna is Suhrida Sarva Bhutana. So, and then there is no illusion. When we understand this knowledge, there is no illusion, and we see that all living beings, they are Krishnas. They belong to Krishna. So when we see with that, so that's the outcome of all the sacrifices that have been talked about. What happens is that liberation happens, and then we know that understand the relationship of everyone with Krishna. Prabhupada is saying the result of receiving knowledge from a self-realized soul, or one who knows things as they are, is learning that all living beings are part and parcels of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna. So that's the outcome of all this knowledge that we gain through all the austerities. We read in that verse in the 9th canto, plus here Krishna has been saying Sevaya. All that results in that we gain this knowledge that everybody is part and parcel of Krishna. And then the outcome of that is that I become compassionate towards everyone. That's the outcome. Let's see if anything else Prabhupada is saying. Okay. The whole teaching of the Gita is targeted toward this end, that a living being, as Krishna's eternal servitor, cannot be separated from Krishna, and his sense of being an identity apart from Krishna is called Maya. Yes. So Prabhupada is establishing the purpose, the whole teaching of Bhagavad Gita is summarizing that I am an eternal servant of Krishna, and then my identity is that I am a servant of Krishna. Right? Jivera Sarup Hoy Nitya Krishna Das. Bhakti Vinod Thakur tells us that Jivera Sarup, my true identity, is Nitya Krishna Das, that I've always been an eternal servant of Krishna. I'm an eternal servant of Krishna. And that's my identity. But when I move away from that, I'm an illusion. Right? So whenever I see anything detached from Krishna, it's illusion. If you have to give a definition for what is Maya means, it means that anything seen which is not connected to Krishna, that is Maya. So, but the moment when I connect anything to Krishna, it becomes devotional service. It's no more Maya. And I can connect everything to Krishna. That's the concept of what Prabhupada has given us, what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us. Mukti hitva anyatha rupam swarupena vyavasthiti. Liberation means to be situated in one's constitutional position as an eternal servitor of Krishna. So that's what liberation means. That so that's what it means, right? The eternal servitor of Krishna. Okay, so that's 35. So let's get to 36.
Prabhuji,
Yes, ma'am.
would you please explain in a simple word, what does one's own constitutional position means exactly?
That I'm a servant of Krishna.
What does constitutional position here means, Prabhu? Means I understood that.
So Prabhupada has explained to us that the word dharma, when we use the word dharma, unfortunately in English, when we convert the word dharma to English, people have converted it to as religion. But Prabhupada very categorically told us that dharma does not mean religion. Dharma means constitutional position. Constitutional position means that if I strip you of every particular identity you have, but what is that one thing that will still define you? That is my constitutional position. For example, Prabhupada gave that example that the constitutional position of a sugar is to have that sugary taste, right? So it's a taste that it brings out. If you're somehow able to extract that out of that sugar, it's no more sugar. So the constitutional position of sugar is to be sweet. So similarly, me, I have taken up many identities as a father, son, husband, I go to work, so and so. All those are identities, but they are not my constitutional position. They are temporary identities that I have taken up during my life cycle. But if I'm stripped of all of that, I lose my job, my family is not there anymore. Everything goes away. My house is not there. But still, what is that constitutional thought that I cannot give up at all? Which is to be a servant of Krishna. And because I have given that up, not given that up, I'm under the illusion, I have forgotten that position, is because of which I'm suffering. Is that clear?
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you so much. Very well. Yeah.
Thank you. 36. Now in 36 and 37, Krishna will give two analogies for the same concept of transcendental knowledge. One is a boat analogy. He's going to talk about here of a boat analogy. This is 36th verse. Even if you are considered to be the most sinful of all sinners, when you are situated in the boat of transcendental knowledge, you will be able to cross over the ocean of miseries. Okay. Right. So let's see, there's something in the purport I thought. Yes, let's read this also. If someone comes forward and lifts the struggling in the ocean, however expert swimmer one may be, the struggle for existence is very severe. If someone comes forward and lifts the struggling swimmer from the ocean, he is a great savior. Perfect knowledge received from the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the path of liberation. The boat of Krishna consciousness is very simple, but at the same time, the most sublime. So, what is this situated in the boat of transcendental knowledge mean, which Krishna is saying to us? So, Krishna has taught in the 34th verse, we read about it, Vidhi Pranipatena Pariprashnena Sevya. So when we carry out ourselves within the jurisdiction of the instruction of a spiritual master, it means that we are situated in the boat of transcendental knowledge, right? So when many of the earlier disciples of Prabhupada, they came to him, they were in ignorance, right? But they were not like ignorant in a sense that they were not like prideful ignorant. They were not like saying, I don't want to listen to any knowledge. They were eager to listen to knowledge, but they were ignorant what the truth is. But once Prabhupada taught them about Krishna, they immediately got elevated, right? So in one sense, if you look at this analogy, they were not in that boat of knowledge yet, but they were very sincerely seeking for that boat. They were looking for it. Okay, so even though they were ignorance, but their ignorance was not such that they were not even looking for that knowledge. They were looking for it, right? By the intervention, by the mercy of Prabhupada, they immediately were able to get onto that boat of knowledge. Right? So when you are in a boat, right? So let's consider as metaphorically this world, this life or world has been called as an ocean of miseries. So this ocean of miseries. So when we talk about this ocean of miseries, if somebody comes and gives you a boat, you're still in that ocean of misery, but then you're still floating above it. You're no more being touched by it. Right? So, but if you kind of are not in that boat, you are like in an ocean of misery. So that's the analogy what Krishna is explaining there. That come into that boat of knowledge, and that boat of knowledge is by coming to you, coming to us by the intervention of a spiritual master, by the mercy of spiritual master. So get on into that boat, get yourself situated in that boat of transcendental knowledge. You know, and there will be relief from the misery, right? So, and then when we are in that boat of knowledge, then we'll be able to cross over that ocean. And so yes, you'll be able to cross over the boat, cross over this ocean of miseries. So now the other aspect that is being brought about here, what Krishna is mentioning is that this most, he's saying, most sinful of the sinners, right? So most sinful of all the sinners. So when we say all the sinners, there are two things that that a person who's a sinner. So sins are not necessarily the ones that are going to stop us back, right? But then a person who's sincerely looking for knowledge, first of all, he or she tries to avoid sins to the best of his capacity, his or her capacity. That's one aspect. The second aspect is that what he has done in the past, the sins that he or she has done in the past, they continue to, hurt him. That, oh, I was so sinful that I was hurting others, I was hurting myself even. So that's what this concept of being most sinner means. It doesn't mean that I am still in the mindset of a sinner and I can get this mercy. No, that does not happen. But despite whatever amount of sins that I have accumulated or I have performed, if I have a change of heart and I can do those two things, try to avoid sins to the best of my capacity and be conscious that I have done so many sins in the past. So what that helps me is that if anything comes to me, when karma comes and bites me, I know that I'm paying something for my past sins. So it just makes me more humble. So when we have those two concepts, however a big sinner I may have been, then I am able to still get onto this boat of knowledge, right? A very good example comes from Chaitanya Charitamrita of Jagai and Madhai. Okay, so Nityananda Prabhu was preaching to both of them. They were the were supposedly, what Chaitanya Charitamrita tells us, that it was said that the sheer magnitude of their sins was mind-boggling, right? Even for Yamaraj. They had such huge mountains of sins. It was impossible to even keep track of. That's what said Chaitanya Charitamrita and Chaitanya Bhagavad. And so, but then they also got mercy of Mahaprabhu. Right? But then once they got the mercy, how did they behave? That's more important to see. Madai actually made a ghat. There's a Madai ghat if you go to so there was this ghat that he made, and so it's so much, he was so repentant of what he had done to people, that he became very humble, Madai. Right? He was atoning for what he had done. He was begging for everybody who was to come to that ghat, Madai ghat, right? And he was even asking them to please hit me with a stone, because I have done so many offenses in the past, right? So he's saying, I deserve worse. Please hit me again, right? So that's what happens. So even if it's the most sinner, that's not a problem. But if we are able to put ourselves in a position where we are we don't want to do those sins anymore, plus we are in a state of atonement, then it becomes, then we are perfect candidates for getting this transcendental knowledge. So these are the two parts. That even though I'm most sinner of the sinners, and then I can still situate myself in the boat of knowledge. 37. The other analogy now Krishna is giving is of fire. So this transcendental knowledge, let's see the translation. As a blazing fire turns firewood to ashes, O Arjun, so does the fire of knowledge burn to ashes all reactions to material activities. Right? So this knowledge tends to burn all our burn down the reactions to all our material activities. Right? So it's that the knowledge received from a spiritual master burns all my karma. Right? So this is the consciousness of a person who has got transcendental knowledge. So there are no more impurities. Right? So there is neither, and when I say impurities, I mean there are no more impurities of either the good or the bad. Right? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, e bhala, e manda, e sabhi brahma. Right? There's always a conception of what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad. All that is a mistake. Okay. All I want to know is what Krishna likes and dislikes. This world is very relative. Sometimes some things are good, sometimes some things are not bad. You go to India, Hindus, they don't marry many wives. They don't have many wives nowadays. But then some faiths they have they can have multiple spouses, and that's okay in some of them. But some of it's not good, some of it's good, right? For many people who practice Hinduism, eating meat is not good. But then there are some faiths who think that eating meat is good for them. So good and bad is all relative in this world. It's all relative. Right? What we as devotees want to know, what Krishna likes and what he dislikes. That's my goal. All other is Brahma. E bhala, e manda, e sabha Brahma. So Krishna is telling us here that it burns to ashes all the reactions to material activities. Right? Reactions, we read that in the 3rd chapter it came, right? That kutam bijam, no, what was it? Prarabdha phalam papam, kutam bijam phalam mukham, kramena priliyate, Vishnu bhakti ratatmana. That when we serve Krishna, then everything is done. Everything goes away. All these impurities go away. Whether they have expressed themselves or not, or wherever they stand, they all go away. They all burn to ashes. That's the been said in this analogy by Krishna. Then coming to 38. Okay, so 38. So now the last two verses were primarily analogies. 30, which verse is this? 38. So 36 and 37, they were analogies. And now comes 38. So now he is giving us the philosophy. So what he's saying is that in this world, there is nothing so sublime and pure as transcendental knowledge. Such knowledge is the mature fruit of all mysticism, and one who has become accomplished in the practice of devotional service enjoys this knowledge within himself in due course of time. That's the important thing. Knowledge within himself in due course of time, right? So let's look at this. What does it mean? What does it mean enjoying knowledge in himself? So this transcendental knowledge, when we get, we become happy with it. When Prabhupada was in Allahabad, his factory burned down. And when he came to know about that, because as I mentioned earlier, right, Prabhupada wanted to set up, gain a lot of money from his work and then use that in bhakti. But then his factory burned down. He suffered huge losses. But then Prabhupada, when he heard that, he was laughing. There's the verse in the 10th canto which says, Yasyaham anugranami, harisheta-dhanam sane. So Krishna is talking and he's saying that when I'm very happy with somebody, I take everything what he or he has. So this concept is too esoteric for us to understand, but Prabhupada was laughing. So he was enjoying within because he had full faith on Krishna. Avashya Rakshibe Krishna, Vishwasha Palam. That he has full faith that Krishna is protecting. Right? So I'm just walking, and then one door comes, I try opening it, Krishna doesn't let it open. Or I see it open, I go running to it, Krishna closes it. Because he's directing me to the right door through which I have to walk. And Prabhupada had full faith in that. Kale Natmani Vindati, and enjoying in himself. Right? Once Prabhupada was in Calcutta and he was trying kachoris. And then there was this, I think it's World War II? I think World War II. Yes. So Calcutta was being bombed. Okay. And somebody came running to Prabhupada that, Abhīṣṭa and take shelter in a bunker. And Prabhupada was frying kachoris there. And Prabhupada said, yes, once I'm done with cooking these kachoris, then I'll come to the bunker. Right? Obviously, we should not become careless. I'm not saying that we should imitate Prabhupada. But what I'm saying is that's a mindset of Kale Natmani Vindati. One becomes delighted in any situation. For that person, there are no anxieties, no hankering, no fear of death. Right? Prabhupada was thinking that I'm making kachoris here. If I die, I'll go to Golok and I'll make kachoris there. Well, that's even better than what I'm doing. So that's a yoga samsiddha. Yoga samsiddha. That's the concept. That person is mature in his devotional practice. He's accomplished something significant in this path. Right? I don't know if you all have seen Prabhupada's photograph when he came in his passport. Let me see if I can find it. It's a photo that's worth seeing. Whenever you look at that photo. Okay, you can see this. So look at this picture here. Let's see if I can. So look at this. So Prabhupada, if somebody looks at this picture, what is he or she going to think? Let me ask you, what do you think when you see this picture of Prabhupada? What do you think his mindset is at that point? Anybody, any thoughts? No thoughts? Nobody getting a thought what Prabhupada is thinking about? Come on, give it a try. Please. Come on.
He looks intense.
He looks intense, yes. There's some sense of gravity there. Yeah.
He looks very determined.
Yeah, determined, yes. Yeah, when I looked at it, it looked sadness to me. I thought, why is he so sad in here? It looks as if he's in a state of anxiety. So what happened is that when Prabhupada, many years he had come to US, established his ISKCON, and so on and so forth, been successful. one of his disciples got his hands on his passport, and he looked at his photo, and Prabhupada, a disciple asked him, Prabhupada, what were you thinking? You know, it looks as if you are you're very grave in this picture. And Prabhupada said that this was the moment of my greatest ecstasy when I got this photograph. Right? So that's called Kalen Atmani Vindati. When this person who has achieved yoga samsiddha, that maturity of devotional practice, he becomes so happy within that he's always dancing within his heart. And what better a thing that it could be for Prabhupada, that now he finally gets to fulfill his Guru Maharaj mission. So this is a very, you know, a photograph that looks something, but actually it was something else. Prabhupada explained that it was in deep ecstasy. Right? So when you come to that state of yoga samsiddha, you are like, you're cared for. You feel that you're cared for like a baby, right? You might be doing service the whole day, running here and there, and then by the time you come for prasadam, everything is done, it's finished, and you reach the prasadam hall, all the food is over, and you're just thinking, oh my God, I'm hungry, my stomach is growling, and suddenly somebody comes up with a plate of prasadam. Prabhu, I saved a plate for you. Huh? Isn't that mercy of Radharani coming right there? So we feel cared for like a baby. We are no more worried about things. How am I going to get this? How am I going to get that? No, I'm happy. I'm satisfied. The six Goswamis, we hear the story of Sanatan Goswami. I'm not sure. I hope I'm referring to the right Goswami. But he had deities with him, and all he would offer the deities was dry chapatis. And the deities even actually would talk to him and would say to him that, at least can you give me some salt? And then he would say, the Goswami would say, no, I told you, this is what I have. I'm just going to offer you that. And if you want something for yourself, something opulent, you know, figure out a way to build a temple for yourself. So devotees, they are so happy within themselves when they are serving Krishna, that Krishna actually comes themselves to be served. Please serve me. You know, you're such a wonderful servant. I want you to serve me. So that's the mood. And Krishna expands time for us when we come in that mode of sevaya, when we keep maturing in our practice of bhakti. When I didn't do any rounds, I still didn't have time in my life. I was busy. Today I'm doing 16 rounds. I spend 2 hours every morning consistently for the past many years. Time has expanded. I'm still busy. Actually, I might have gone busier in my life. Now, you know, my son is growing up. Now, many other things that are increased, but then still have time. So Krishna expands when that maturity comes. Right? We meet so many people who say, I can't chant, I don't have any time. But when we come with that mode of sevaya, then Krishna expands time. Right? And another thing that happens when we mature in bhakti is that we become sober. Right? We understand, we learn to tolerate things. This too shall pass. Right? Personally, for me, whenever, you know, there are many times come that when I get very frustrated, right? But then my delight comes when I hear something or I read something that my spiritual master has said. When that comes to my mind, suddenly all my anxieties, my worries, they go away, and I'm in a state of delight at that moment. So all this. So I just mentioned a few things that you know are practical ways to look at what does it mean, Kalena Atmani Vindati. So we are cared for like a baby. We feel that care coming from Krishna. We see that time expands for us so that we can do our services and our sadhana expertly. And then we also become sober. We become tolerant of things that are happening around us, right? And the best feature of Krishna is his holy name, right? And when we apply all these qualities, you know, that I'm being cared of, I'm being taken care of, and Krishna will make time for me for my services, and I'm tolerant of whatever is happening to me, then I'm able to relish that holy name also. Right? As Bhakti Thakur says, Great Thakur, Bane Thakur, Sada Hari Bole Thakur. Right? That whatever you are, you're a sannyasi, you're a gasta, whatever you may be, you just chant. Sukhe dukhe bhulo nako, vadane harinam korore. That either you are in happiness or sorrow, just always chant, right? And then all the things will be destroyed. Utam bijam phulam bukam, all that bijam. So that's what Kalin Atmani Vindati means in a true sense. Let me just stop this sharing. Go back to yes, so that's verse number 38 that we did. Okay, let's go to 39. A faithful man who is dedicated to transcendental knowledge and who subdues his senses is eligible to achieve such knowledge. And having achieved it, he quickly attains the supreme spiritual peace. So now, as I was mentioning earlier, that 35 to 38 is rewards of getting transcendental knowledge. 39 and 40 is the eligibility for getting this knowledge. So now we are in that eligibility section. So what is the eligibility? What does the person have to do? Is subdue his senses. That's one important thing. And it's faithful man. So the word faithful is Shraddhavan. And so there are three words that are used: Shraddha, Tatpara, Samitendriya. So those are three important words that are in this verse. Okay. So three qualities are required. Shraddha means faith. So what is the faith in? So the faith is in that Krishna is supreme and Guru is a representative of Krishna, and Bhakti will take care of everything. That was Shraddha means. Shraddha Shabde Vishwas Kare Sudhrida Nischay. Krishna Bhakti Karile Sarv Karma Krit Hoy. Mahaprabhu tells us that. And by doing Bhakti, everything will be taken care of. And Prabhupada says this in the second canto of Bhagavatam, second canto, first chapter, that the stipulated energies synchronized from this all universe come and focus and come to our help when we have Shraddha, when we have faith, when we do our Bhakti to the best of our sincerity and capacity. Okay? So those three things. Shraddha means faith in Krishna is supreme, then Guru is a representative of Krishna, and the Bhakti will take care of everything. Right? Tatpara. Tatpara means dedicated to the supreme. That eagerness to serve has to be there. And then third thing is subdue senses, samatendriya. Right? So when we engage in sense gratification, in one sense we drain all our transcendental knowledge. Every day when we are putting knowledge in our head, but then through these senses that we have conveniently placed up here on our face, ears, eyes, nose, tongue, all those can very well be openings for the transcendental knowledge to even flow out. So I have to control them. I have to control these senses. That is why nectar of instruction begins with Vacho Vegam, Manasakruta Vegam, Jibha Vegam, Dharapasta Vegam. That I have to control everything so that the transcendental knowledge that I'm taking in, it stays there. Right? So that's the essence of this verse. The three things: Shraddha, Tatpara, and Samatendriya. So Shraddha is I have to be faithful, and Tatpara means I should be eager to serve, and then Samatendriya means I have to subdue my senses. Those three things are here. And Prabhupada tells us, a person who is faithful to Krishna and who controls the senses can easily attain perfection without delay. That's another important thing. Without delay, it won't be delayed. So now, faith is a bit of a complicated phenomenon, right? So faith has two aspects to it. It's divine grace, and it's also my effort in it. Okay, it's when I put in my part of the faith, then Krishna also becomes graceful, and he gives me faith also. Then the faith builds. Right? So initially, my faith is just a favorable curiosity. But when I add knowledge to it, transcendental knowledge, then that relationship becomes symbiotic. Okay, it's a synergistic relationship between knowledge and faith. Right? Initially, I have some favorable curiosity. Okay, that there is some higher dimension, and probably these books are of some value, and then I start appreciating them. With that tiny faith, with that favorable curiosity, when I move forward, then my doubts get clarified. Okay, and then my faith increases. And when my faith increases, then I inquire more deeply. Okay, so that's the whole cycle that gets. So my faith increases by when I keep on inquiring again and again. I go deeper into bhakti. So that knowledge opens up more and more to me. When I am doing it with Shraddha, with an eagerness, and by Samatendriya, by controlling my senses. Okay. If there is no Samatendriya, there is no Tatpara, then there won't be any transformational benefits. I might be able to fill up my mind with, oh, I can memorize verses, I know this philosophy, this is what Prabhupada says here and there. But that's all theoretical. There's no change in heart. My heart is still stinking. So if I need transformational benefits, those three qualities have to be there: Shraddha, Tatpara, and Samatendriya. Okay. I accept that I'm a servant, then I get in deep inner peace. Right? So that's what happens. Faith, knowledge, faith builds up, more inquiry, faith builds up, and then a time will come when I'll be fully situated in bhakti, ready to go back home, back to Godhead. So that's the concept. Those are the aspects of knowledge. That's 39.
Prabhuji, faithful to Krishna here is meaning that unmotivated, unalloyed service to Lord Krishna. What is faithful to Krishna? That is what it means here.
Faithful to Krishna means, yes, you're right, unalloyed and
Unmotivated. Right?
unmotivated. Faithful, another way that I also see it, faithful means sincerity.
Okay.
I'm not perfect. If I think that I can come to a statement, obviously I can come, but right now I'm not there, that I can do unmotivated, uninterrupted service.
Mhm.
Right now, at least I am doing karma mishra bhakti.
Mhm.
Karma mishra bhakti means I am doing devotional practices, but they are tainted with a desire for sense gratification also in my heart.
Mhm.
But if I have my sincerity in there, if I am telling Krishna, whatever hell I have put myself in, but I am going to gather whatever tiny amount of sincerity I have, and I will do my bhakti with that, and I'll leave it up to you. So that's also being faithful to Krishna.
Mhm.
That's another aspect to understand. Unmotivated, uninterrupted could be a very high bar, and if I am not there, I might feel that I'm not faithful to Krishna. But just because you are trying sincerely, you are considered as faithful to Krishna. Right? Prabhupada gives that example of a ripe mango and a raw mango.
Mm.
So both of them are mangoes. For Krishna, one who's a neophyte but trying sincerely, one who's a self-realized pure soul. For both of them are dear to Krishna, because they both have, the neophyte is putting his complete sincerity, the pure devotee is putting his sincerity plus selflessness. So both of those are also faithful to Krishna. I just wanted to add this other aspect to it.
Got it, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Okay, so 39, let's go to 40. Now, this is the other end of the spectrum, right? So we talked about faithful, but now Krishna is saying, what happens if you don't have faith? So saying, but ignorant and faithless persons who doubt the revealed scriptures do not attain God consciousness. They fall down. For the doubting soul, there is happiness neither in this world nor in the next. And samshay atmana is the word that Krishna is using. Samshay atmana is one who has doubt, doubtful person. Right? So there are three things that are being mentioned in here. Let me see if I can highlight this. Agyan, agya, ashraddha, and what's the third one? Samshayatmana. Okay, I've already highlighted that. So agya. So agya means no faith. So this is a word Prabhupada is saying, a fool, no knowledge in scripture, standard scriptures. So there are three things that we have to look at in this consideration. There's no knowledge whatsoever of spirituality, so forth. No faith in the scriptures, and no faith in Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's an agyan. So that's an agyani, a fool. Okay, that's the first level. Ashraddhadana. So there is knowledge. The person has knowledge, some knowledge, of what the spiritual aspect is there. But then that person doesn't have faith in the scriptures, or even very little faith. Like some people have faith in Ayurveda, Patanjali and all that sort of things. But then they don't have faith in the scriptural knowledge as a whole. And then they don't have faith in Krishna as a Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the Samshayatmana, he is better. He has knowledge, he's faith in the scriptures, but he doesn't have faith in Krishna. So I'll repeat these three categories. So take three categories: knowledge, faith in the scriptures, faith in Krishna as a Supreme Personality of Godhead. The first person, Agyan, doesn't have any three of those. The Ashraddhadhana has the first one, has the first thing, knowledge, but not the other two. The Samshayatmana has the first two things, knowledge and faith in scriptures, but he doesn't have faith in Krishna. He's filled with doubt. Samshaya, Atmana. Those shackles pull back that person, right? So mostly, at least me, I can say for myself, I'm in the third category. By Prabhupada's mercy, I'm not in the first two categories, at least. I always get doubts. Everybody says Mahaprabhu is incarnation, is Krishna himself. Is he Krishna himself? My Guru Maharaj always says books, books are ideas. They have so much knowledge, and when you spread this knowledge, these ideas from the books come and plant themselves in people's mind. Does it even happen? Do people get transformed by these devotional practices? So all that doubt, these doubts come into my mind. So I'm in the Samshayatmana state, right? And that is why happiness is still elusive in my life. I'm looking for happiness, but it's still not yet fully there, right? So, so those three categories Krishna is mentioning now. So what Krishna is saying, don't fall trap to these three things. Have knowledge that there is something for me to know beyond this. Have faith in the scriptures. Understand that I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Get rid of all the doubts. And then you will see your life transform into a blissful. You will become Kalen Atmanidantan. You will be self-satisfied. You'll be happy with them. You'll be rejoicing with them. There'll be no more doubt, right? So you'll eliminate all those doubts. That's what Krishna is saying. And it all happens gradually. It wouldn't happen overnight. If you're looking for something of that sort, it doesn't happen overnight. In bhakti, when we constantly serve, we put in austerities and we beg for mercy, then these doubts go away and our heart cleans up. It happens gradually. So that's what Krishna is mentioning here. And for such a person, there is neither happiness in this world nor in the next. In this world, yes, the person is still burning in the agony of doubts, and in the next world, he falls down. He moves further downhill in this life cycle. So there's no more happiness there. That's what Krishna is saying. Only this knowledge will help one become promoted to the transcendental platform of spiritual understanding. Yes, when we gain this knowledge with faith, as Prabhupada is saying, we'll get transformed to that platform of knowledge. With that knowledge, we'll have a spiritual understanding. Okay, 41. One who acts in devotional service, renouncing the fruits of his action, and whose doubts have been destroyed by transcendental knowledge, is situated factually in the self. Thus, he is not bound by the reactions of work. O conqueror of the riches. Yeah. Dhananjaya is a name given to Arjun because when Yudhishthira Maharaj was doing Rajasurya Yajna, when he was given Khandaprastha, right? When they came back from when his Pandu was dead, and they came back, and then they were given a place to rule, and so that land was barren. They had to build it up. They needed money. Yudhishthira told Arjun to go and collect money, and he collected a lot of money. So he became Dhananjaya. He was named Dhananjaya because of that reason. But Krishna here is using the word Dhananjaya to remind Arjun that you are a material Dhananjaya. Materially, you are Dhananjaya. You won a lot of material wealth. But now show me how you conquer this wealth of self-realization. Dhananjaya. That's what Krishna is asking Arjun here. that how do you conquer these riches of transcendental knowledge? So there are three phrases here again. Yes. So yoga sannyasta karmanam. So having attained to devotional service, he has renounced fruit of action. Yoga sannyasta. So he has attained to devotional service by yoga, and then he has renounced fruit of action. Jnana sanchina samshayam. So jnana sanchina samshayam. With that knowledge, he cuts down to pieces doubts. So there is no more samshayatmana, which was there in the earlier verse. And then he becomes atmavantam. This is a very beautiful word. Atmavantam. One who possesses his own self as the true riches. He doesn't need any external stimulus for his happiness. That's what this means. So the whole conclusion of this chapter is boiling down to Arjun, please act, please work, please work in faith, please work with this understanding that I'm the Supreme Personality, with this concept of that you're not this body, you're a soul. So that's what Krishna is highlighting in this verse. One who follows the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita, as is imparted by the Lord, the personality of Godhead himself, becomes free from all doubts by the grace of transcendental knowledge. It's a grace coming from Krishna. It's not something that I can pick up, I can raise my hand and pluck. No, it's a descending process. The grace is going to come from Krishna if I work in a way that is conducive for my spiritual growth, that is conducive to the message Krishna is giving us. Okay, and Bhakti Saraswati Thakur, once Bhakti Saraswati Thakur entered the temple and he forgot his glasses. So his disciple went back running, bought his glasses for him, and he gave it to Bhakti Saraswati Thakur. And Bhakti Saraswati Thakur said, I'm okay, I don't need these glasses, because I'm not here to see Krishna. I am here so that Krishna can see me, right? So a devotee tries to act in a way that he or she doesn't want to look for Krishna. He or she will act in a way that Krishna wants to see who this devotee. That was Bhakti Saraswati Thakur was explaining by that pastime of his, that I'm not here to see Krishna. I'm here to show myself to Krishna. Krishna, see, I'm here. Please have mercy on me. Okay? It's not that I want to see the deities or I will see how beautiful the deities is and I will relish. Yes, that's okay. But then the bigger principle is that I want to show Krishna that I'm worthy of his grace. And that grace comes when I work according to the instructions of Bhagavad Gita. That's the essence that Krishna is giving here. That you just act, understanding that I am the Supreme Personality, understanding I am the Supreme, and that you are not this body or a soul. The last verse. Therefore, the doubts which have arisen in your heart out of ignorance should be slashed by the weapon of knowledge. Armed with yoga, O Bharat, stand and fight. Again, ending in a very crisp message to Arjuna. I've taught you all this, right? You had sat down on your chariot saying that you're not going to fight. And Krishna is saying, rise and fight, Arjuna. Armed with yoga, armed with this knowledge that you're not a body or a soul. Understanding this, working in this sense of detachment, it will lead to your liberation. So, this chapter, in the broader sense, if I have to give a summary, I would say this chapter talks of transcendental knowledge. And what does transcendental knowledge mean? Is to know the position of Krishna, act in the knowledge of Krishna consciousness, perform sacrifices to gradually attain Krishna consciousness. But the best is to surrender to a guru and just jump further on in the line. Okay. So that's the ultimate message. And the reason, as we were reading that report from the 9th canto, when we do austerities, then personal realizations come to us. My confidence in bhakti is developed from my own experiences, from my own realization, right? That's the ultimate evidence, right? We can corroborate with the scriptures, but I have to see it for myself. right? I have to go back to the basics, really do good rounds, do a lot of good service, read Bhagavad Gita. And when I keep up these habits, we will see that Krishna is speaking to us directly. That will give us confidence. We will see realizations happening. We'll see personal experiences. They might not be huge. They might be just like tiny matchsticks going out in the darkness. But matches going out in the darkness. But then those personal realizations help us keep going. They give us confidence. And that happens when we practice bhakti, then our intelligence becomes stronger than the mind. We read in the last verse of third chapter, right? Indriyani prani aur indriyabhya paramana manasastu parabuddhi yobuddhi paratastu sa. That indriya is the lowest, then comes mind, then intelligence, and then the soul. So right now, my intelligence is under the control of my mind, but it reverses when I practice bhakti, right? My intelligence gets fortified, right? Then I get a context for material desires. I see that, okay, what these material desires are, how they are disturbing me. You start grasping that because I fell trapped to this particular desire of mine, this is the outcome I'm suffering. And I realize that these desires have a beginning and an end, and there's no real happiness in them ultimately. So they're just a temporary contact. Okay, so intelligence becomes well aware and of this, and then I'm able to sort out what to do and what not to do. Eventually, that's what happens when I get this transcendental knowledge. And this transcendental knowledge, along with austerity, with the pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya, with that austerity that I do while we all do our services, that's the complete package there, right? So initially we have to restrain our senses, but then when we grow in bhakti, a time comes when we have that higher taste, we have to no longer use restraint. We automatically grow taste, and we are in that higher taste. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehina raso vartan rasokyasya param dishkva nivartate. When I have got that higher taste, and no longer get entrapped in the lower tastes. Right now I have to control it, but later on I won't have to. So when my purpose is very strong in bhakti, then all the obstacles that are coming in my path, they are merely learning experiences. We are able to overcome them when my purpose is strong. And how do I make my purpose strong? As we read 4.34. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. This transcendental knowledge comes to me as a descending grace. Okay, that's it. We wrap up the whole chapter. Any thoughts anyone would like to bring out? Okay, then we'll wrap up. We'll get back